Well, good evening to you. Great thanks for joining us. This is Family Matters. And as Victor Miyakene did tell you earlier, the conversation is really on HIV and, of course, the scary statistics as regards infections amongst the youth. And very quickly, I'll just check the statistics for you before I introduce the panel, bearing in mind that Kenya was ranked third, really, amongst countries within Eastern Central Africa with the highest infections amongst young people. That is really, really what you would say very scary. And the statistics too are very scary when you look at the age group between 15 to the years 24. Some of them said, not even able to negotiate for safe sex, all these things. And that is what we are here to talk about. Most importantly, talk about advocacy and access to information when it comes to young people, because yes, it's our future. In studio, I have a lot of faith, because I have two faiths in studio. One of them is Faith Ndongo, who is the AHF, and that is the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. Faith Ndongo, who is seated next to me, is the advocacy manager. And then you have Faith Kamau, who is also the Nairobi Prevention Program person at AHF Kenya. And then I have Moses Morigo, who is a beneficiary of one of the programs that we'll be talking about in a few. Thank you all for joining us. And of course, the lot of faith we soldier forward, right? Good.
Yeah.
Let's begin this conversation from the point of where we are and looking at the statistics. In terms of description from where you see Faith, how badly are we doing?
Thank you for hosting us today.
You're welcome.
And when you look at the new HIV infections, one of the most interesting things is that we need to comment actually that Kenya as a country, we have reduced new HIV infections. But unfortunately, with all the gains of reduced new infections, we have an increase in new infections among the young people. So these are the age groups that you've just said, 15 to 24, which is really worrying, because when we look at the prevalence, we can say that it's gone down. But unfortunately, we still have quite a number of new infections among the young people, which is something that we all need to sit as a society, as a country, and ask ourselves, what are we doing wrong when it comes to this age group? Because for the older population, we are seeing a decline. But for this population, we are seeing an increase, and it's something that we need to handle, because if we don't handle, just like you rightfully said, then we might be dealing with a situation where we might be having a population which is purely HIV infected.
Very sad. Faith Kamau.
Yes.
I mean, look at this age. At 15, it's somebody who is just into the bracket of what we'd call teenagers. At 15, that's just 2 years after being a teenager.
Yeah.
And then at 24, perhaps you would say somebody is exiting from, early 20s. So that's when they, you would say they're really getting into real life adulthood. From where you sit and through your advocacy in the programs in Nairobi, what is the problem in this bracket? What is the biggest problem in this bracket?
What I can see, most of the parents shy of talking about sex to their daughters and sons.
That subject is very dicey. Go ahead.
So they hoped to go and find out what is really happening. And when they get information out there, they end up getting the wrong information. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boss, when in youth, and I'm sure you've interacted with your peers. How old are you again?
I'm 24.
24. Yeah. Fantastic. You fit into this group. What is the problem at the point when you get to 15 and 24? What is it that you don't? Is it access to information? Is it ignorance? Or what happens in between here?
Actually, what I can say, thank you first. What I can say is ignorance first, and there's this peer pressure thing. Yeah, I want to do what you are doing.
Yeah.
And I want to fit into a bracket. What people are doing, I also want to do it. So at the end of the day, you find we're the ones who are being highly affected during that age. Yeah, that's what I can say maybe.
All right. Because you're 24, right? How have you been able to overcome? Because it's one of the biggest challenges, and most of the youth really get lost within that bracket. So what has made you emerge out here from now at 24? Because I'm sure you'll be 25 in about a few months or something like that.
Well, what I can say is it's a narrow escape, maybe I can say.
Oh, narrow
It's a
escape.
yeah. Through dance that I have, yeah. And through Dundango Beziangu, is whereby I've gotten this opportunity whereby you can rely on and put more focus on what to do. So is to you fellow youth, maybe what I can help them, tell them is have something that you can have focus on, and maybe forget, the world is so big, and when you focus to the world, you might get lost.
All right.
So maybe, when you have that one thing focused on, I think you'll head somewhere, and that's what will help you as in understand and get out of it.
Fantastic. I love your choice of words. Narrow escape. That's quite interesting, and I think for anybody, it would actually send, a thinking spree to your brain, because when somebody says narrow escape, it just means then they were not empowered enough, but through the grace of God, they were able, to go through the same. And look, this conversation is not just about the youth, because out there you're a parent and you also have a youth, or somebody who has a youth in one way or another. So we're asking you to get in touch with us on our SMS line. 22162 is our SMS line. Tell us who you are and where you're watching us from. If you have any question that you want answered, or you have any insight that you would want to share with us, 22162 is our SMS line. On Twitter, at KBC Channel 1, at JCurier, the hashtag is Family Matters. At KBC Channel 1, at JCurier, the hashtag Family Matters. Faith Nungo, coming back to you, because Faith has, or your fellow Faith has introduced a very interesting conversation, and then about sex education. And it's something the country has grappled with for a long time. And the biggest challenge has been the conservative people that we encounter, who really would not have a subject that is called sex being introduced to a child who is whatever age, whether 15 or 24. And it is not a conversation that parents really have with their children. Is it the right way to go from where you sit? How badly are we doing? And is it the right way to go?
I would say this, that unfortunately, we sit and say that we are a conservative population, while when we sit and listen to our history, we hear that our mothers had their aunties, their mothers had their aunties. So our society was not conservative. There was a system of how this information was to be passed from an adult to a child, because what we're looking at is a point of trust, that the child trusts and gets the correct information. Unfortunately, we're looking at a situation whereby, yes, we don't really understand, and I think as a society, we don't understand what this sex education is. So there's a person who will feel, what are you going to bring on? But there's someone else who knows what they want to bring on. And I think the best starting point is for us as a country to have that conversation of what does sex education really entail. And when we say sex education, it's not just sex education, it's age appropriate. Because like I have a daughter who's 8 years, and for sure, we've already had the discussion of what private parts mean. We've had the discussion of what is a good and a wrong touch. Because when you look at it, she needs to understand at that tender age, so that as she grows, she knows that I can trust my parents. And that's something that I'd like to encourage more parents to do. But at the same time, obviously we know that there's the grace of God which helps us. But most importantly, we need to talk to the young people, because it starts from a point of an authority which a child trusts. And when you're the first point of giving the child information, then whoever else will bring myths, the child will still remember that mommy told me. So I think we need to have, as a society, because really it's not the parents' role purely, it's the society role, because the teacher has a role, the religious leader has a role, but then how do we handle it in a way that it is information which is age appropriate?
Let me ask you, because you were talking about us not being conservatives, but there was a reason why your mother, those days, it was not the mother talking to the daughter, it had to be the auntie. And the level of conversations they used to have. And of course, with the changing times, do you think that still can fit into today's context?
It may not fit, because for sure, at that time, aunties and mummies used to sit at home as daddies went to gather and hunt. But when you look at the times now, as a society, we need to come up with a way of filling that void. And one of the ways is the structured way, which is through the education sector. But also as parents, it's quite important for us to be involved. Not to, there's so much that we transfer, the teacher will do, and the pastor will do. But it is time that I took an active role, And the pastor took an active role, the teacher took an active role, and we also need to understand what is it that we want our children to be given as information, so that as the teacher is giving that information, we are reinforcing at home. It is being reinforced at our religious points, so that then this information is preparing this child to make informed choices. Yeah. Interesting enough is that there's a report which came out this year of teenage pregnancies, and children as young as 9 years are already pregnant or have had children, which means then that this child really did not have the right information to make an informed choice. And this child was exposed to contracting HIV. So it is quite important for us to reflect back as a society and ask ourselves, if you're having teenage pregnancies or adolescent pregnancies as young as 9 years, then we really need to critically sit and talk about this, because at the same time, on the flip side, we are seeing new HIV infections among the 15 to 24, which then means that as a society, it's not the role of that, it's the role of us.
Quite interesting. Faith, come out, because and don't fear, hata kama ni Kiswahili, just speak so that you're able to express yourself freely. You're the one who's doing these programs in Nairobi.
Yes.
And my question to you, because in your interactions with the youth, particularly in this age group, how much is too much in terms of, you're talking about sex to your teenager, within this age of 15 to 24. 24, perhaps they have already experimented, they know much about it. But I'm thinking for a 15-year-old, maybe they're somewhere in secondary school or something like that. So how much is too much, or to what extent does sex education entail?
What I can say, first, to parents, they should make close friendship with their children. As parents, try to find out, what does your daughter or your son know about either sex? Try to, at least try to probe and learn to understand how much your child knows. Then from there, you'll be able to probe more and more. And don't block. Even you hear something which is not interesting to hear into your ears, don't block your child.
But isn't it normal for a parent, when you ask such a question and then you know the details here and you're like, hey, guy, where did you get that? Isn't it just normal, to respond to that? And again, now you're dealing with balancing between advising your kid and then getting worried. And at some point, I know parents who listen to these details and they're like, have I failed this much in parenting?
Sometimes I can say parents are very busy.
Yeah.
And there's that gap of parent socialization, if I can say. There's that gap of socialization.
All right.
Yes.
Moses, sorry again to keep making reference to you, because obviously you're the youth here.
No problem.
And fitting into that gap. At what point, in any one point or another, when was the first time you knew that, number one, that you're sexually active and this is it? Or was there anybody to tell you about sex?
Actually, there's nobody. And there was nobody, but I can remember very well when I was in school, when we were introduced about sex productive, that's the time that we start understanding your body, actually. This is the part. And maybe this part, I got it. And what does it do? So at the end of the day, you get to learn. And from there, you get to meet your fellow colleagues who maybe understand much better than you do. So in the process, you get, slowly by slowly, you get to understand how it goes and what happens. Yeah.
So much of it you had to rely on theories out here.
Exactly, because no one can come and teach you, this is this, and this should be done like this. So I guess the theory that we tend to learn through our surrounding, maybe.
You keep, making reference to ignorance as one of the biggest challenges, again, that is clawing back on the gains made when you talk about prevalence of HIV amongst the youth, and particularly when you're trying to create advocacy, ignorance being one of them. What level of ignorance are you talking about? What is this ignorance you keep making reference to?
Thank you for the question, and I like the fact that we have a young person, and when you look at it from his point of view, the honest point of view is that he's just said that it's experimenting. Like you learn and you find yourself.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we've realized is, especially when it comes to HIV, that people might have information in that you ask anyone about HIV, they'll tell you, yes, I know. But then how accurate and up-to-date is that information? So that's where we want to fill that ignorance gap. Because yes, people know about HIV, but unfortunately, the information which many people might have is myths. Some of it will be a lot of misinformations. A lot of it will be some stigma-based, you know, like a parent telling you, ngoja unilete ukimya hapa kwa nyumba utaniambia. You know, from that point, so there's all this fear that people don't even get to understand what HIV is. And we've realized that we need to bridge this gap by giving people one up-to-date and accurate information, so that then from that information they can make an informed choice, which then will translate to reduction of new infections through prevention or reduction of stigma, especially for those who are already infected. Because at the same time, the levels of stigma are so high, but because of the lack of knowledge, which we can equate to the ignorance.
And we'll talk about that again as we talk about, you know, the challenges of a person who's infected, because again, at the end of the day, you don't throw them out or anything like that, because it's just, you know, a situation like any other, and you have to keep them, of course, feeling comfortable and feeling loved. But there's something I've been thinking about, particularly when you talk about the youth faith, and Nairobi is, perhaps you would say, the epicenter of all these things. And with no insult on the family that has lost a loved one in Homa Bay, but it opens up the lead on what the youth are doing in universities, as well as, you know, out here. That is a 26, 28-year-old who had sponsors. How is this sponsor thing clawing back on the gains you guys are making in terms of ensuring this advocacy?
It's true. It's there. And it is on increase.
It is on the increase?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So, again, back to the parent. Set boundaries with your child. Let this child know, despite their difficulties, that's our goal. Let these children know their goal is to maneuver in school. The rest of things will come back. And as much as I'm talking, according to my observation, we should bring seminars where we bring parents and youth so that we can bridge that gap. Yes.
How will that go, by the way, when an 18-year-old is seated in the same seminar with the father and mother? How will it go?
You see, according to you, you see it like it's not possible.
I'm just asking, you know, fairness, how will it go? Because like you said, there's already that existing gap, particularly between, you know, parents and their... And in any case, he will tell you, mzazi kila siku anaonekana kama mtiaji. Right? Ni kama mtiaji. So when you organize that conference, tell me, what do you seek to achieve from this conference when you bring parents and teenagers together? And how do you intend to run it if it were to happen?
It will be an open talk. Let the parent view their fears.
All right.
Let the youth address their fears also. Then after that, they can come up with a strategy on how to go about. To, you know, parent, according the way you are brought up, we are not supposed to talk about sex, we are not supposed to talk to your... but when you bring this together, that fear of unknown, it will be somehow dealt with.
Musa, story ya Masponyo Kibra unaisikiaje?
Kibra na hepa. Huko ni mtaani, huko ni ghetto. So wanakuja huku uptown.
Wanazifanyia uptown.
Downtown huko kwa ghetto noma.
How rampant is it kulingana perhaps na wale wasio interact na wao? How rampant is it?
Imekuwa hard sana. Imekuwa affect mostly madem wadogo. Which maka wale madem size yetu wenye sisi tunafaa kurana na wao, napata sasa wako hawezi cheza
na Range Rover.
Hawezi cheza ligi yetu. Hata wakikam kucheza ligi yetu wanatucheki sisi bado ni source. Unaget. hatuwezi fika, ndio umeshapitia standard zingine, wamepelekwa places zingine zenye siwezi mfikisha. So unapata point kama hiyo, it's hard like to help anyone. Yeah.
Umewahi jaribu kubonga tuseme tu na wasee wenye wako level yako, you know, talking about these things and the fears that this young generation has, and most importantly again kuongea story ya HIV, tuseme na mademu wa Kibra na story kai?
Okay, sijapata maybe kubonga nao mo, but unapata nile they have this fear. Okay, they need it.
Yeah.
Because most of it wanaenda jua nini leisure ama kupata ile good moments, then hawezi pata na youth. So unapata vitu mob zenye naza encounter ni vitu kama atakuwa disown one time.
Yeah.
Si atakuwa na sponsor forever. Wasemanga sponsor udedi ama pesa uisha. So atakuwa hapo for kabisa. So unapata at the end of the day sakikam sa ligi yetu anapitia itakuwa hard time kwake. Yeah, unapata sadami for example kumdate inakuwa hard. Yeah, because maybe one or the other way should understand pamoja.
Boy child akona shida.
Sana.
All right. You know, let's talk about the uptake of testing, because it's a critical aspect, and I think it's also part of what you guys are doing with Dunda Yangu. Beziangu, yes, with what you're doing in that initiative. There's still a big problem in terms of a take-up of testing. How are you handling that?
Yes, we have quite a challenge when it comes to targeting young people and at the same time men. Men to access testing, HIV testing. And so in this case, one of the things that is critical for us is different campaigns that we tailor-make, because we realize that traditionally we'd go to the health facility and wait for people to come. And we realize, wamama ndio wanakuja because of NC clinic, and at times it's very hard to get the men and young people. And so one of the creative ways that we've come up with is the campaign called Dunda Yangu Beziangu, which we started last year and it worked out very well. So we're doing it again this year, where we go to the people and we target informal settlements, because these people, in most cases, wako too busy sana. Like they have to make ends meet. So we go to where they are and use dance actually. So it's like a dance competition, but within the dance competition, when we are identifying talents within this informal settlement, we are also having health services being provided. So a person will be cheering, but they can still pop into a tent, get to have an HIV test, know their status, and go back. And we've realized anytime we do that, the queues are way too long. Many people are ready to know their status. And interesting enough, we get quite a number of men and young people. So for us, this is a strategy. We are happy that we started last year, but it's picking up very well. And we've got very good reception within these informal settlements. So we are not just giving them hoping that Beziako ni normal, it's okay. We're also giving them that assurity that we are bringing you this health service. And this year we've moved beyond just the HIV testing. We are going to be screening for TB. We are going to be providing wellness services for people to know their BMI and what does that mean to their health. So those are things that we are bringing to the informal settlements where we rarely do that. Many people rarely do that. And we are happy that we can partner with the people and provide the service which they really need. Going to the discussion that you are asking about, the sponsor discussion, really it's one of the things that when you look at the HIV reports, transactional sex and transgenerational sex. Transactional, that there is money.
There's money involved, yes.
And then there is transgenerational, meaning that a young person is engaged with an older person, is one of the contributing factors to the increase in new infections. And it's one of the things that as a society we need to stop normalizing. Because for so long, people have always been like, even when a young girl goes with a new thing is, kumbo kona sponsor. Like no one can think that, oh, so your parents bought this for you, or maybe you did some thing that brought you this. So as a society, we need to stop normalizing the sponsor discussion and sit back and ask ourselves, what is the underlying factor? And I think as a society, we need to sit and ask ourselves, why are we glorifying quick access to money the much we are? Because that is what is making young girls and young men get into the popcorn society. Like
Quick fixes.
quick fixes. I want go now I get the money, now I drive my car, now I live in a good house. And because of the glorification of money, these young people say that the ends will justify the means.
But if somebody can be living in a posho mill, then steal from NYS and drive a car tomorrow. Anyway, I'm not trying to justify this.
It's unfortunate.
Also, it's really unfortunate.
It's unfortunate.
And again, maybe it's also a situation for us, to review our morals as a country, and the redirect our moral compass. But coming back to you, Faith.
Yeah.
And I'm using you again because wewe ndo unapiga raundi sana hii town.
Yeah.
So, what is the biggest, apart from stigma? Because sometimes when people hear you're going for testing, they're like, "Kwani ulidu nini jana? What did you do last week?" and stuff like that. Apart from stigma, what are the other fears that young people have that make them to stay away from visitor centers?
Another fear, inadequate information.
All right.
Actually, they don't know. Some don't know. They only know only sex, which you can get that HIV. But basically, there are several ways you can contract that HIV. And another one is poverty.
Oh, yeah.
Poverty, it's on a rise. And as Frida has talked about, your child comes in the house with something new, you don't question, you relax there. It's a contributing factor. And again, drug abuse. It's another contributing factor. And also peer pressure, the socialization. Yeah.
All right. Musa, weka mse wa mtaa. Dunda yangu, bezi yangu. Ilikuokoleaje weka mse wa mtaa?
Merchants ilinokolea big time kwanza. Kwanza ilitupatanga season nyingine mbaya mtaani. So unapata dunda yangu, bezi yangu ilikaa mtaa, ikaleta mayouth pamoja, mostly madansa. Of which madansa tuseme ni wale mayouth tuseme wajanjez kimpango. So unapatanga hao ndio wasema kwanga highly maybe tuseme pia affected.
Na ni maselebo yo mtaa.
Exactly. So unapata dunda yangu ni ile inakaa mna bring pamoja na ina sensitize. At the end of the day, si dance pekee mwaletea. Because nilikuwa na learn from them during the competition. There's this point watakuja na talk. Lazima kutakuwa na guest. So atakuja na talk, atasensitize maybe highly maybe on HIV and AIDS, TB. So kuna ile kubonga. So then kama wewe ni youth ukiwa hapo utakuwa tu hapo for the sake of being there. At least utatoka hapo kuwa enlightened with something. Exactly, with something. And then at the end of the day tume benefit na dunda yangu base yangu imetu expose. Like for now naza bambika, I can be so much happy nimepiga show Wales Day, International Condoms Day, the anniversary nilikonga juzi. It was a big event. Tulikonga na mabig.
Ujaikuwa kwa TV live.
Nimekuwa live ya dunda yangu. Niko hapa. So unapata through dunda yangu base yangu inakupatile, mimi nikistand hapa hivi nasema base yangu iko strong enough. Yeah, according to what nimetoka nimelan. So
nikuulize, like that's personal, like for you, even though dunda imekusaidia. But this or what you'd call the bottom line ni hii message pia wewe ufikishe wasee, kuhusu kujijua, kujitambua. Have you been able to do that? Na umejaribu kufikia wasee ngapi hivi?
Yeah, okay, tuseme mimi personally together with my crew we have done something. And at the moment tuko na in foundation tumeunda watoi. So napata pia watoi, unajua pia mtu mdogo mnyako kutoka 8 anaelewa something. He has something on his fingers. Anaelewa, so napata we talk with them. At the end of the day kama si my youth, unajua wanasemanga kama pasa hata kama anafanya ngizi vitu sometimes akiambianga wasi unaambia wasi na rightful way. So napatanga see even kama my youth, we still talk to these young children about naweza ongelesha msemurika wangu hata ni understand venye naweza taka, because msana maybe ana joke ama msile umeniamulia aje, but youth mdogo kunishinda napata kuni understand ati kwa mseni mkubwa kiasi. So unapata tuna push the word.
I agree. It's in each and every way our small contributions that matter to this. Coming back, because I'm thinking back when I was in primary school there growing up, without running the risk of revealing my age on national TV. But back then when I was growing up, the government was still talking about HIV. And those times they used even to display very ugly billboards, you know, which obviously would also have contributed to stigma. But so many years later, and there are countries that have made huge strides in terms of the war against HIV. So many years later, instead of downscaling on HIV infections in Kenya, we are always recording new infections every other day. Is there an indictment on government in terms of providing access to information, or what is the issue?
Actually, like I started by saying that I commend the government for the interventions which have been put in. But also quite interesting is that there's a lot of interventions in what we call the biomedical, in that things which are related to the health facility. But when it comes to the information that you're talking about and behavior change, then there was a lot of magnet theater. I got to know about what HIV is because there were all these people who are going around to schools and talking about what HIV is. And I feel that as a society, we need to go back to that, but not in the traditional way that we received the information, but we need to have young people sitting in and contributing and saying, how would they like to hear that information? So yes, I feel that we need to put more emphasis into behavior change communication, into messages out there, and into messages which are relevant to different age groups, and especially to these young people. And also see what other avenues can we use, because these are people who are always on their phones, and maybe that's an avenue that actually we can use to reach the young people. So really it's about how can we tweak this information but still have as much information as we can out there. Actually, you know, today is a Sunday. And many people go to church on Sunday, not because last Sunday they didn't hear about the message and that the pastor didn't preach, but the pastor still stands up there and preaches again. And it is because of, they do that so that they reaffirm the message. For HIV, I feel that the prevention message needs to be reaffirmed, not because we say that the people don't know, but because we need to do it every other day until we say that we've got to actually reducing new infections to a level where we can say as a society we've made real great strides.
All right. You've spoken about the church. Faith, is it perhaps time for churches to dedicate 2 sermons per month to the subject of HIV?
Actually, what I can say about church, they should not
or even
shy.
mosques, so that we don't exclude you know, their audience.
We should not shy of talking about HIV. We can, if you personally as a pastor, you cannot be able, recommend somebody who can come and give health talk. And also, you can also bring people to offer, to provide the services. Maybe, you know, there are some people after the health talk. Another thing, before even I say health talk, some people don't have time to access the services, HTS. As you're talking, if they can propose health talk and then bring services so that people can be able to know their status, I think also it can help.
So there's a good number that will keep away from church that Sunday, right? And it appears like we have never been able to address, what is this fear? It appears like it's the biggest challenge that we are yet to address. But very quickly, Musa, from where you sit, mayutu wenye wako kwa ngori, umewaita mayutu ndio maana natumia. Mayutu wako kwa ngori za sex na hizo noma. Na msee ayuko married ama nini. Unaweza msho?
I'm not sure. The best way is to abstain. And if you can't abstain at the end of the day, kama lazima you have to do it. Tumia condom. Yeah, for the safety measures of your own.
All right.
Yeah.
Quite interesting, because again, you have also introduced another spin. Because, and it also, you know, brings in the issue of parenting, because, and talking about sex, because all our parents used to pump into us is abstain, abstain, don't have sex until you're married, abstain. But well, times have changed, and I'm not trying to justify the debauchery that is happening in the streets. But the abstinence message, do we need to tweak it, or can it still stick in this time we're living in?
Actually, I want to say this, and I think the abstinence message has a place. What we need to do it is do it in a way which makes it, let me use this word, safe sex sexy. Because at times you say abstinence is like, it's so much hard work. But when you look at the age of sexual debut, you'll see that 4 out of 5 have abstained actually. But we focus on the one who's not abstained. So we need to have messages which, you remember the time when Nimechill thing, it made abstinence look really like it's fashionable, it's great. And I think that needs to be brought back. But also remember that there is a population which is going to abstain. There is a population which will not abstain. So we need to have measures for those who abstain and messages for those who abstain, including the fact that, don't forget, there are people born with HIV. So then, when we talk about HIV among these young people and paint it as it's as a result of unprotected sex, we are also bringing this population. So what I would say is that we need to package this message so well. Yes, let's make safe sex sexy by making abstinence look, it's great. But also remember that there's a population which is not going to abstain, so then proper and consistent
Maybe that will
use.
go for segmentation, so that you have perhaps what you would say awareness that is segmented in terms of the populace that you're targeting. But because most of the conversation we've had here is talking about prevention and but once you're in it, and it can be by bad luck because nobody really goes and is so willing, I'm coming to get HIV, or things like that. And apart from the conversation on we're providing ARVs for them, and they're not always available because, if I'm not wrong, the minister the other day had to clarify that there was no crisis in terms of the provision of ARV drugs. It appears like once we hand them the drugs, our story ends there, and we continue with the stigma, and we do not take care of them in terms of the love they should get, encouraging them and walking the journey with them. How big is this challenge?
The challenge is there, and I would recommend the support group, where I bring the infected one together, they share their experiences, and they encounters. It's very important.
How badly is stigma affecting the war against HIV?
Stigma is there because it starts with self. Then it goes to the community stigma.
All right. I still have about 2 minutes to wind up this program, and you see how time goes fast. So very quickly, let's talk about the event happening this month.
Yes, we are running Dunda Yangu Bezi Yangu. Actually, we started on the 1st of September.
You already started?
Yes, we had auditions. And the turn-up was good. It was in Mukuru, Dagoretti, and Mathare. And we had more than 2,000 people come from the different places. And so throughout the month, we are going to be not only providing information, but also providing services. And one of the things that I would say is, yes, there's a lot of stigma, but the more we have the conversation, the more we deal with this animal called stigma, and the more we'll have more people want to access services. So we are going to be at next weekend, we are going to be at Kiboro Grounds in Mathare. We are going to be at the Youth Empowerment Center in Dagoretti, and we are going to be at Ruben Sports Ground in Mukuru. And we call upon the young people to come and not only know their HIV status, also get to be screened for TB, and also learn really. And wakuja washabikie.
You're targeting 10,000 people?
We are targeting 10,000.
So the next event from today is?
On the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th.
So 15th, Mnaenda?
The 3 places, every...
Same day?
Yes.
So it will be Mukuru,
Mathare, and
Dagoretti.
On the 15th, 22nd, and 29th.
All right.
Actually, the semi-finals are on the 29th, but in the meantime, watu wakuja washabikie dance group zao. Yes. And identify talents from the base and know our status.
Yeah, very important. Well, time is good. And I really need to take feedback very quickly before we wind up. P. Mutati says, again, we used to watch programs with our parents because we were human. Nowadays, we have animal media. I don't know what that means. Just do a survey of how many families watch TV together. Quite interesting, though, because that's where, again, you're able to impart values on your kids if you spend time together. I blame the media for publicizing sex. Well, looks like we are taking a hit. Songs, programs, movies, etc. Teaching the young children. The words ametumia. It's a very infamous word. I won't use it because we are still within the watershed period. I'm very upset by media because it is the big first problem. I wonder where... Okay, surely he has real beef with the media, and we will sort it. We will try and sort it, obviously bearing in mind that the media is blamed for every single ill that is happening in this country. But I also ask myself, if this country had its moral values, you know, in line and all that, and I'm not trying to argue with the viewer, but if the country had its moral compass on the right direction, surely the media cannot corrupt, you know, the morals of people if we were on the right moral compass. And at the end of the day, these programs are watched by people and demanded by people. So it's about us first before we can even, you know, point fingers at the media. Most of today's have no picture of how people looked like before the invention of ARV because they were born late 90s and early 2000. Eliud Mwanya from Machakos. And there's a question, maybe you can take it, Faith Dongo. How are the protective contraceptives being sold effective?
What we have, when it comes to HIV, yes, there's PrEP, which is a preventive pill. If it's taken as per prescription, yes, it is effective. But let us also remember that the condom also plays a big role in that. So yes, it is there. And actually, the world is advancing when it comes to the science and new interventions. And PrEP is one of these new interventions.
All right. Somebody says here, Ismaili Kaulu says children are exposed to adult content. This impacts them on their sexual activity. A lot has to be done by everyone to stop these infections, and I agree completely. Children and youth used to belong to the society. Right now, this belongs to their parents only. Moral decay is high, but one cannot shout since you don't want to start trouble. Let's do it the old school way. I'm sure you're going to get into a lot of trouble if you get to the old school way. But I'll give each and every one of you 30 seconds to wind up very quickly. I'll start with you, Musa.
On saying what? About?
Yes, sema maneno yako ya mwisho tukiendanga.
Maneno mwisho nazambia. Okay, let me talk to the dancers when you're pale nje na my youth. As in, Dundangu Bezi yangu is a good platform. Maybe you can expose what you got. So, kama uko na talent, come do it. Dundangu Bezi yangu atakupeleka place. I'm happy because at least I can say I am somewhere.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, fans, youth, dancers, do your best, and I wish all the best to the competitors who are on a join Dundangu Bezi yangu season 2.
All right. Asante Musa. Faith, come on.
Okay, HIV, it's real, and my urge is to test with your partner and test as a significant family for support. In case one turns positive, you can be able to support the member of the family. It's very important to test as a significant family. Thank you.
Quite interesting. Faith Ndungu?
First, let me appreciate that you heard us. And number two, as AIDS Healthcare Foundation Kenya, it is one of our mandates, and our mission statement actually says cutting edge medicine and advocacy regardless of ability to pay. So one of the key things for us is let's provide prevention, because we know that that is the starting point of us saying that we're getting to the end of AIDS. But most importantly, let us deal with stigma, because stigma is also affecting people accessing services. And as a society, we need to sit back, and I like the feedback that has come in. As a society, we need to sit back and reflect and ask ourselves, when did the rain start beating us? And then pick up as a society and move forward. And one of the things that I'm happy about, and I would like more players to come on board to do innovative ways when it comes to HIV prevention. Let us join hands in HIV prevention by informing young people for them to make informed choices. But let us also not forget that those who are infected, we should not stigmatize them. They are part part of this society, and they play a very important role.
And there is also the danger of, we are talking to youth, to keep away from sex and the sponsor thing, but the economic empowerment bit in terms of empowering our youth is still a big problem out here because we have a big number of them who are jobless, right?
It's true, but bottom line again is information, and then people make informed choices. Yeah. Informed choices.
Well, these conversations can never end either way because it's always, new things to speak about. Most importantly is that go for testing. It is very important, number one. And most importantly, if you know somebody who is infected, support them and love them. But also speak to your peers about this thing, particularly amongst the youth, so that we are able to eradicate this thing. My name is John Jacob Curia. Thank you very much again for joining us, and thank you very much for your feedback. I didn't go through all of it because I'm 6 minutes past the due time. But thank you very much, Faith Ndongo, Faith Kamau, Musa, and thank you all again for tuning in. God bless you. Have a good night. See you around.